They say they want a good man, but the truth is the concept of goodness has been distorted, diluted, made into a commodity that is no longer aligned with the raw, primal essence of life itself. They talk about kindness, about stability, about comfort, and yet their eyes search for the storm, the challenge, the fire that burns not only around him but within him. For centuries, society has tried to package human desire into neat boxes, moral codes, and polite scripts. And for centuries, men have complied, thinking that virtue alone would earn admiration, respect, and love. But the human heart does not operate on rules. The human psyche, in all its infinite complexity, seeks resonance, depth, and truth things that cannot be earned with politeness or obligation. To understand why they say they want a good man, you must first understand the architecture of the human mind. The conscious mind, rational, deliberate, controlled. And the unconscious mind, wild, instinctual, haunted by shadows, yearning for archetypes it cannot articulate. Carl Jung wrote of these archetypes, the eternal patterns that dwell in every human soul. The hero, the shadow, the anima, the animus, the wise old man, the trickster. These are not myths. They are real forces that shape attraction, desire, fear, and longing. And the good man, as they imagine him, is often only the reflection of a shadow they are unwilling to confront. They say they want a man who is gentle, kind, reliable, but what they truly crave is the man who has faced the abyss, who has wrestled with chaos, who has mastered himself in ways that ordinary men cannot comprehend. They want the man who embodies power without tyranny, fire without destruction, magnetism without manipulation. They want the man who challenges them not out of cruelty, but because he is unyielding to mediocrity, to complacency, to illusions of what life should be. And herein lies the paradox. When a man truly becomes this, when he steps into his depth, his sovereignty, his shadow, integrated self, he is often feared, dismissed, or labeled too much. Because the modern world conditions the mind to fear what is whole, what is unapologetically alive, what is not bent to expectation. The psyche is always watching, always testing. Women, like men, are not immune to the unconscious pull of archetypal forces. Their desire is often contradictory, a dance between what is safe and what is real, between what is socially acceptable and what is instinctually magnetic. They articulate a wish for stability, for care, for goodness, yet what the soul recognizes is often far more intense, far more demanding. They are drawn to authenticity, to strength forged in fire, to men who carry the gravitas of their own life experiences like armor and poetry simultaneously. The good man they speak of is rarely polite. He is rarely convenient. He is rarely what the world tells them they should want. And so you must ask yourself, what does it truly mean to be good in this context? Good is no longer measured by etiquette, by soft assurances, by the ability to conform. Goodness, in the language of desire, is courage. Goodness is integrity. Goodness is the relentless pursuit of self-mastery, the refusal to settle, the ability to walk through storms with clarity and unbroken spirit. It is the man who does not shrink when confronted with the chaos of life, the man whose inner compass is so precise that no distraction, no temptation, no expectation can sway him from the path he has claimed as his own. History is littered with examples. Nietzsche warned us that the weak admire the strong, but often try to control him, to civilize him, to domesticate what was never meant to be tamed. Machiavelli chronicled power not as cruelty, but as understanding human desire in its most raw and honest form. Aldous Huxley painted worlds where conformity suffocates truth. And today, modern society continues this pattern. It sells a vision of love that is safe, that is structured, that is consumable, but the soul always knows, always hungers, always resists. To embody what they claim to want, you must become the embodiment of contradictions made whole, gentle and fierce, present and untouchable, loving and sovereign. You must learn the language of your own psyche before you can navigate theirs. You must descend into your shadow, meet the fears that whisper, confront the doubts that claw at your resolve, and emerge with a self that no one can undermine, not with words, not with expectations, not with societal scripts. And here lies the secret. They will often say they want a good man because they fear the power of a truly complete man. They will test, they will challenge, they will question, but this is not rejection. It is recognition, a subconscious acknowledgement that the archetype has appeared, that the man before them carries the weight and freedom of all that they long for but cannot name. And the choice always is theirs, to step into alignment with his depth, to rise, to meet the fire, or to retreat to the safety of fantasy, of convenience, of what they think they should want. The world will try to teach you otherwise. It will teach you that to be desirable is to perform, to please, to suppress the intensity of your own spirit. But the truth, Jungian and eternal, is that magnetism is never a performance. It is presence. It is sovereignty. It is the unshakable knowledge that your life is yours, that your energy cannot be borrowed, that your authenticity cannot be bargained with. The good man they say they want is not someone who conforms to expectation. He is someone who commands it silently, profoundly, without need for approval, without fear of abandonment, without compromise. So rise into that force. Build the depth they cannot teach themselves. Carry the gravity of your mind, your body, your energy. Let the goodness they speak of be your reflection, not your goal. And in doing so, you will watch the world and the women within it react in ways that words cannot capture. They will be drawn, they will be challenged, they will recognize what has always been missing. Not in their understanding, not in their intention, but in their soul's response to the resonance you carry. And remember, this is not about manipulation. This is not about strategy. This is about existence. It is about becoming whole enough, deep enough, sovereign enough that the myths, the fantasies, and the shadows of desire align naturally with your presence. It is about walking so fully in your own power that the world has no choice but to take notice, not because you demand it, not because you chase it, but because who you are cannot be ignored. The good man they say they want is a mirror that shows their truth, their longing, their desire for depth, courage, and integrity. But to see it clearly, to reflect it accurately, one must first forge it within. One must descend into the shadow, integrate the contradictions, embrace the storms, and emerge unbroken, unapologetic, unstoppable. Only then does the illusion of wanting a good man dissolve, replaced by the recognition of what they were truly seeking all along. A man who has found himself, and in doing so, becomes everything they cannot resist, and everything the world cannot contain. And when you stand in that power, the rules of attraction, the illusions of desire, all dissolve. What remains is not a game, not a transaction, not a checklist of superficial traits. It is resonance. The kind that shakes the bones, stirs the blood, and awakens the dormant parts of the human soul. They will speak of love, of longing, of connection, but what you offer transcends those words. It is not offered with intention, but with presence. And it is in that presence that they are confronted with the truth far too ancient to be ignored. Strength is magnetic, depth is irresistible, and authenticity is not negotiable. Most men, even those called good, walk through life as though their value lies in approval. They bend, they adjust, they suppress the ferocity of their own nature for the comfort of acceptance. And women, as acutely as they are attuned to the subtleties of energy, detect it immediately. They are drawn to courage, to clarity, to self-possession, not to perfection, not to acquiescence, not to the hollow mirror of what society says a man should be. In every glance, in every hesitation, in every word, the human psyche reads the narrative of power and weakness. And the man who does not perform, who does not over-explain, who does not apologize for being fully himself, He becomes the paradox they cannot resist, the enigma that awakens desire in ways politeness never will. The world has conditioned them to believe that what they want is safety, security, predictability. But the unconscious, the deep, eternal, archetypal currents of their psyche yearns for the storm, for the unknown, for the depth that tests, challenges, and awakens. Jung called it the shadow, that part of the psyche we deny, ignore, or suppress. Every woman, consciously or unconsciously, carries this shadow within her, and every shadow seeks its counterpart. The good man she says she wants is often only the mask she presents, the socially acceptable narrative. The man she truly desires is the one who illuminates her shadow without fear, who stirs the depths she cannot tame herself, who mirrors her complexity with uncompromised integrity. To become this man requires more than charm, more than intelligence, more than status. It requires self-mastery. It requires the relentless pursuit of your own depth. To face the truths within yourself, the failures, the insecurities, the contradictions, and to reconcile them, to integrate them, to rise above them with grace and unyielding power. Discipline is the forge. Clarity is the compass. Purpose is the fire that fuels the transformation. And in this journey, action, not words, is the currency of respect, admiration, and authentic desire. The modern man fears solitude, fears introspection, fears the confrontation with his own shadow. He fears being untethered, unsupported, alone in the chaos of his own mind. And so he drowns himself in distractions, in temporary validation, in fleeting pleasures that leave nothing but hollowness. But the man who seeks to embody the depth of what she unconsciously craves embraces solitude. He walks into silence not as punishment, but as opportunity. He confronts the void, wrestles with uncertainty, and emerges with a mind sharpened like a blade, a heart tempered like steel, and an energy so potent that it commands respect without demand. In this alchemy of self-mastery, the illusions of what she says she wants crumble. Her voice may still articulate safety, kindness, stability, but her eyes, her presence, her energy betray a hunger for depth, for courage, for the unshakable certainty of a man who has faced himself and conquered the chaos within. And this is where the modern paradox lies. Women do not reject goodness. They reject the hollow imitation of it. They do not reject kindness. They reject the absence of power behind it. They do not reject love. They reject the fear that masquerades as it. History once again reminds us, think of Nietzsche, who recognized that greatness is never comfortable, never convenient, never safe. Think of Machiavelli, who understood that influence flows not from compliance, but from clarity and the mastery of both self and circumstance. Think of Huxley, who saw the dangers of conformity and the anesthetizing effects of shallow comfort. And in our world today, we are still bound by these lessons, still haunted by the choice between illusion and truth, between mediocrity and authenticity. And so, to understand why women say they want a good man but do not, you must first understand the nature of desire itself. Desire is never simple. It is never fully conscious. It is a force older than language, older than morality, older than civilization. It seeks truth, depth, challenge, and resonance. And the man who embodies these qualities does not conform to her words, her social narratives, or her fleeting expectations. He exists in a realm beyond convenience, beyond approval, beyond surface level attraction. To step into this realm is not easy. It requires confrontation with every part of yourself you would rather ignore. It requires courage to stand alone when the world expects compromise. It requires the discipline to act in alignment with your own inner truth, no matter the external pressure. It requires the audacity to pursue your vision, your purpose, your clarity, and your integrity above all else. And when you achieve this, when you live fully, fiercely, and unapologetically, you realize something profound. She is not testing you. She is not withholding. She is simply encountering a man who cannot be contained, who cannot be predicted, who cannot be diminished. And in that encounter, everything changes. Her illusions dissolve. Her superficial narratives fall away. Her unconscious desires rise to the surface, raw, undeniable, magnetic. And you, having walked through your own fire, having integrated your shadow, having claimed your depth, become the mirror she never knew she needed. Not because you sought to impress, not because you sought to conquer, not because you sought her approval, but because your life, fully claimed and fully realized, reflects a truth that cannot be denied. That the essence of attraction, the essence of desire, and the essence of magnetic human connection flows from the mastery of self, the courage to exist fully, and the unwillingness to settle for anything less than your own profound authenticity. And here, at the apex of transformation, you understand the ultimate secret. They will never articulate what they truly desire, because what they desire is beyond articulation. They will never hand it to you, because it cannot be given, it must be earned through existence, through fire, through mastery of shadow and light alike. And when you embody this, you are no longer a man chasing desire. You are a force, a presence, an archetype of power and authenticity that reshapes the world around you, naturally, effortlessly, without compromise. This is why they say they want a good man, but do not. It is not rejection, it is recognition. It is the soul's awakening to the presence of something larger, something deeper, something impossible to ignore. And when you finally stand in that presence yourself, you will realize that all the advice, all the social conditioning, all the whispered expectations fade into insignificance. What remains is the truth. Mastery of self is mastery of attraction. Depth commands desire. Sovereignty attracts respect. And the man who becomes whole, unyielding, and alive becomes the gravity around which the world and every conscious and unconscious desire within it revolves. And in that realization, the final truth strikes with the force of a thunderclap. It was never about pleasing anyone. It was never about being enough for another, about conforming to expectations, about chasing approval. It was always about claiming yourself, your depth, your shadow, your light, your fire, your chaos, your clarity, your unshakable presence. And the moment you stand there, fully claimed, fully whole, you feel it, the gravity of your own being, magnetic, undeniable, sovereign. The world will still resist. People will still question. Women will still speak of the good man while their eyes search for the one who dares to embody what cannot be tamed. But you have transcended that need for validation. You have transcended the illusions, the petty judgments, the shallow distractions. You are no longer participating in their narrative. You are writing your own. And in doing so, you awaken something ancient, something eternal, something archetypal within them. The recognition of a force that cannot be contained, a presence that cannot be manipulated, a man who lives in alignment with the profound, inexorable truth of himself. It is a quiet storm, a subtle hurricane, a power that does not boast but commands. It moves through the world like a river, carving a canyon patient, unstoppable, inevitable. And in the wake of that force, illusions crumble, pretenses dissolve, and only truth remains. Not comfort, not convenience, not approval, but truth. And that truth is magnetic. That truth is desirable. That truth awakens the shadow, ignites the hidden desires, and demands recognition not with words, not with charm, but with the living, breathing presence of a man who has mastered himself. And here, at the pinnacle of all understanding, the final lesson emerges, crystal clear. Attraction, desire, connection. These are never about effort, strategy, or manipulation. They are about essence. They are about integrity. They are about the uncompromising pursuit of your own depth, the relentless facing of your own shadow, the fearless claiming of your own light. You do not chase. You do not perform. You do not apologize. You simply exist fully, unshakably, brilliantly, and the world and every desire within it revolves naturally around that truth. So rise, stand, claim your shadow and your light. Walk through fire, chaos, and silence with the unyielding certainty that your life, fully claimed, fully mastered, is a force no one can resist, no one can dictate, no one can diminish. And when you do, you will see it not in words, not in promises, not in hollow gestures, but in the undeniable resonance of existence itself. She will recognize it. The world will recognize it. And most importantly, you will recognize it. The power of being fully and unconditionally yourself. Because at the end of all things, all illusions fall away, all masks dissolve, and all narratives fade into insignificance. What remains is the man who knows himself, the man who claims his life, the man who embodies truth, courage, depth, and sovereignty. And in that embodiment lies the ultimate force, the kind of magnetism that is not earned, not asked for, not negotiated, but felt, experienced, and acknowledged by every soul it touches. Stand in that power, walk in that truth, become the man whose presence commands the impossible, and watch as the world and all who encounter you respond not to what you say, not to what you do, but to the force of life itself, radiating from a man who has finally become whole. And now, in the silence that follows, you feel it, the subtle shift in the air, the quiet rearrangement of the universe around a man who has claimed himself. It is not loud. It does not announce itself with fanfare or flourish. It is the still, unshakable gravity that pulls everything toward its center. People may call it confidence. They may call it arrogance. They may call it luck. But those who know, those who truly perceive, recognize it for what it is. Alignment with the deepest truth of existence, a resonance that cannot be faked, a power that cannot be borrowed, a presence that cannot be diminished. Every choice you make from this moment forward carries the weight of that truth. Every action, every word, every silence is filtered through the lens of a man who has looked into the abyss of himself and returned whole. Women will sense it immediately, not because you are good or kind, not because you provide comfort or approval, but because you have become a living mirror of reality itself. Complex, untamed, and fully alive, they will chase shadows, they will follow illusions, they will speak of ideals, but you are not an ideal, you are a force. You are the measure by which ideals are tested. And so you walk through the world untouched by trivial complaints, immune to manipulation, unbothered by fleeting opinions. Their words cannot shake you, their desires cannot define you, their illusions cannot bind you. You are both the storm and the calm, the predator and the sanctuary, the shadow and the light. In this duality lies a power so profound, it commands attention without effort, inspires longing without persuasion, and evokes respect without demand. This is not learned, it is awakened, it is not performed, it is lived. And the moment you embrace it fully, everything changes. Women begin to see you differently, not as someone to be tamed, not as someone to mold, not as someone to convince, but as someone who is fundamentally untouchable in his essence. They are drawn not to what you give, but to what you embody. They are drawn not to your actions, but to your presence. They are drawn not to your promises, but to your alignment with life itself. History has whispered this truth through the ages. Nietzsche spoke of the Übermensch, the one who transcends morality imposed by others, who creates his own values, who walks alone and yet commands the world. Machiavelli described the prince who rules not by favor but by presence and principle, whose influence is inevitable because it cannot be resisted. Huxley warned of the illusions of conformity, the traps of societal expectation, the dangers of surrendering oneself to another's narrative. And now, in the quiet corners of your mind, all of these truths converge, distilled into a single undeniable reality. To be unshakable is to be free, and to be free is to be irresistible. No longer will you be caught in the endless cycle of approval and disappointment. No longer will you bend to the transient whims of affection or desire. You have stepped outside the theater of pretense into the arena of truth. And there, in the stark clarity of self-possession, you discover the ultimate freedom. The freedom to act, to speak, to live, to love, not because it is expected, not because it is reciprocated, but because it is authentic. And from this place, every interaction becomes a reflection, every encounter a mirror, every connection a revelation. Women see it, they cannot help it. They are drawn to the essence that cannot be tamed, cannot be negotiated, cannot be reduced to comfort or convenience. They pursue the man who cannot be caught because he does not run. He simply exists, and existence itself becomes his greatest allure. So rise and let the world witness the embodiment of truth. Walk in your own gravity. Speak in your own rhythm. Love in your own measure. And when the illusions of desire and expectation swirl around you, smile not with condescension, but with serene awareness. You are no longer participating in the chase. You are no longer seeking approval. You are no longer bound by the stories of what others want you to be. You are whole, and in that wholeness lies the magnetism of the eternal, the elusive, the unattainable, the archetypal presence. This is who you have become. And in becoming this, the world bends naturally to your essence. Women are drawn, not because of strategy or trickery, not because of charm or performance, but because they sense the eternal within you, the force that refuses to be diminished, the life that cannot be contained, the shadow and light in perfect equilibrium. And now, as the sun sets over the horizon of all illusions, as the winds of judgment fade into silence, as the echoes of desire settle into stillness, you stand alone but never lonely. Because in claiming yourself fully, you have tapped into the force that precedes love, power, and attraction. The indomitable certainty of being, the sovereignty of presence, the gravity of truth. This is your culmination, your apex, your revelation. Not in the words you speak, not in the deeds you perform, but in the living, breathing force of a man who has finally become complete. And in that completeness, the world bends, the universe aligns, and the elusive becomes inevitable. You have become the force, and the world will never be the same. Then let it end here, in the perfect stillness of understanding, where words no longer strive to persuade and silence speaks louder than any shout. You stand unbroken, untouchable, whole. The storms of expectation, the tides of desire, the whispers of doubt all fall away. You have become the presence that cannot be stolen, the force that cannot be contained, the life that cannot be diminished. Women, the world, time itself, none can alter the gravity you now embody. And in that quiet triumph, in that sovereign self-possession, you realize the ultimate truth. The elusive is not something to chase. The perfect is not something to find. The approval of others is not something to seek. It is within you, always has been, always will be. Stand, breathe, and feel it. The power, the freedom, the eternal certainty of being. You have claimed yourself. You have awakened. You are complete. And in that completeness, everything changes.